I arrived on campus in the fall of 2012 in the economics department, and I was hired to be actually an adjunct instructor at the time. And I had arrived on campus just after the union had begun its organization. So the vote had been held the prior spring. So when I got to the scene, that was already in progress, and they spent that first year working through the bargaining that had went all throughout that academic year and beyond into the beginning of the next fall. And relatively soon after I arrived, I was approached by Bill Harbaugh of the economics department, who serves as our treasurer, and he had told me the backstory of the economics department being actually unsurprisingly very skeptical of unions in general or having a faculty union. And the story was that once some of them realized that this was probably the way it was going to go, that they decided it would be better if we were all uniformly inside the union, to whatever extent we could be, just to make sure it worked out well. And it worked out well in general, and specifically that it worked out well for us. And so with that pitch, I didn't really see any problems with joining. I'd been in a graduate student union at the University of California, Berkeley, so that was something I was familiar with, and I didn't have any hang-ups about being part of a union. So I happily joined, and over the next several months watched some of the bargaining sessions, and watched the arguments that were being made on both sides, and clearly I was seeing that the union, that the nascent, still, it's in its forming processes, was pushing for that which was good. They were making a case for making things work better for faculty in any position in the bargaining unit, and I saw their appeals as being very pragmatic and sensible, and I liked that. I liked the message. I liked that they were bringing together people across campus, and so I would attend. I was invited to join the rep assembly, and that was something that I enjoyed participating in and seeing a little more inside what was going on with the activities of the union, what were they focused on, what problems are they trying to solve, and how are they trying to go about it. And toward the end of last academic year, so this would have been spring of 2015, in our second round of bargaining, Ron Bramhall, who had been serving as vice president for the non-tenure track instructional faculty, had been, well, what verb to use here, poached by the administration. So he was given an administrative role and was therefore out of the bargaining unit and off the bargaining team, which is kind of a blow for us. He's a great guy, and we miss him. So that left a vacancy in that position, and I was approached by a number of people to think about maybe serving in that capacity. So I had an extensive conversation with Ron about what that involved and what I should be thinking about in making that decision, the pros and cons, and that seemed to be something I wanted to explore. And so ran for that position, and now have since been elected to fill Ron's shoes. So that's working out so far. What I wanted to do, and what I still want to do, that's how it came to be that I'm now one of the officers of United Academics, and really actually enjoying very much the opportunity to meet with people across campus. And I'm involved in some of the organizing efforts. I'm involved in trying to resolve some concerns that people that approach us with, specifically those concerns that with the non-tenure track faculty, certainly. And I'm still learning the ropes, no doubt about that. But I still really enjoy being part of something that I think is a force for good on campus. And especially perhaps on this campus, but across campuses generally, that's not something that always happens. So it's actually really good for me to feel like there is this positive voice for change. And that it's one that's not dogmatic. We're very pragmatic, and we're trying to approach problems and solve them, work on them together with others. And so far that's worked out really well. some of the things that the union has done, and one of the reasons that I wanted to approach it and I felt that it was doing such good, was in fact that it had this key role in my career here at the University of Oregon. So after that first year when I was serving in this adjunct position, I had been invited by the department to start in a career position during my second year, and had a one-year contract slated for that second year. And just as I had begun that second year of my job, transitioned now into a career track role rather than an adjunct position, I, out of the blue, was approached by Penn State to work for them, to do my same job, being an instructor in economics for them. And that came with a rather attractive package of salary and contract length. So while I was serving one-year contracts at Oregon and had in the future, that was how that would play out until promotion. I would have a one-year contract, and every year I'd have to be nervous about being renewed. I was looking at a 5-year contract from Penn State, which looked very attractive, given that I have a family and didn't really want to relocate again with them. So I that was something that certainly was a big part of my decision. And it just so happened that this outside offer came exactly the time when that first contract bargaining was coming to its conclusion and ratification. And so as soon as that was done, within a day or two, my department was asking the administration, like, well, there's this new language in the new contract that said that instructors have contract lengths that are at least 1 year. That was new language that hadn't been in the contract before, and or that was not the norm on campus, that instructors possibly may have contract lengths longer than a year. So the new contract allowed for that possibility that had never been a possibility before. And the timing was perfect. So turns out the administration mulled it over and thought, well, okay, that would be all right. And so I was extended a 3-year contract as part of the retention offer. And that was fantastic. That I was able to make that work, and I elected to stay. And that was a big piece of that, was having that increased job security. That's been something that definitely the union has made a massive and important change for my career here at the University of Oregon. Not just because I stayed. Actually, it's much more important than that. It's because the longer contract length allowed me to transition my teaching from what can I do that will be liked by students so that they'll evaluate me in such a way that I can keep my job from year to year. And it changed from that goal to what can I do to help students learn? And turns out those are different goals. And sometimes they're not in tight harmony. So, but once my goal began to be, what can I do to help them learn the material? And if they like it or not, that's sort of secondary. I think I became a better instructor. And I think I became someone who could really work for the needs of my students in a way that I couldn't before. It allowed me much greater freedom in terms of pedagogy, and I could take more risks, and some things have worked out and some things worked out less well, and that's okay. I can fix the things that didn't work well, and I can improve upon the things that did work well. And that's been a really important change in how I am in my career, just generally. And I feel much better about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And that was made possible ultimately because of the union, ultimately because of that contract that allowed for that. So it's made a huge difference in my life and in my career here, not just because of the job security. It's been much bigger than that, much more broad. Well, moving forward, one of the things that I really would like to do is to figure out how to make that work more broadly. I know it's worked really well for me to enjoy this longer contract term, and there are many people on campus who are working in similar positions, and they will continue to work in those positions. Instead of being on yearly contracts that need to be renewed, we can do better than that, because we can clearly forecast some of those needs. There'll be variation in some of the positions. That's understood by everyone. But to the extent that departments will have these continued needs, and rather than have people hired year after year, and previously, before the union became involved, there were some positions that were just hired term by term for years at a stretch, which was definitely not a good idea. we fixed some of those things. I'd like to continue that work. I'd like to make it possible for longer contract terms. I'd actually like to sit down with some of the decision makers at the department level and at the college level to ask about, well, what are we doing now? Can this work better? And these particular aspects of the ancillary benefits of longer contract lengths is something that I'm not sure the administration's aware of or the departments are thinking about. And to the extent that they're not, I would like to have that conversation with them, to let them know that it's actually more about just being humane to your employees. It's about serving the needs of your students in a better way, so that your instructors can do what they need to do, they can be more effective, and not only that, but have higher morale, have increased job security that'll allow them to breathe freely and to really throw themselves into their work in a way that is harder to do when they're on an annual contract. So that's definitely something I'd like to do. That's one of the things in my term of service as one of the executive officers in the union that it's a conversation that I want to start and have in earnest with the key players on campus. Other things that I'd like to help with are the opportunities for professional development. So there are a number of programs at the department level and college level and university level to help out with tenure track faculty, to help them with the research and in lots of different ways in terms of and grants and course releases, and that's fantastic. And I think that's lovely. We should expand those efforts at all possible in our pursuit of academic excellence. I think there are similar parallel opportunities for that within the non-tenure track instructional faculty, certainly with the research faculty as well, or non-tenure track. And I've been fortunate in the economics department to really get a lot of support from my department heads and others in the department for what I do and how I do it in my sort of unique role as an instructor. I'm the only faculty member in the department who does exactly this, and I've been very fortunate. They've helped me to travel to conferences where I can go to pedagogy conferences and learn more skills and tools of the trade and network and connect with people who are doing this kind of position and learn enormous amounts that I've been able to bring in to my classrooms and even beyond to, once I bring them to my classroom, I can share those things with some of the graduate students who are teaching or potentially some of the other faculty as well. And that's been something that's been a great benefit to me. And I think that there's room for that as well across departments. And to the extent that we could do better in that respect, that's something that I'd like us to focus on as a university. And so one of the things I'd like to learn is how that's handled. How is professional development supported at the department level or at the college level, and to what extent can we expand some of those services to our faculty? Because ultimately, one of the visions that I have for the campus is that tied into this idea of being a campus of excellence is that we can do more to help each other out in our diverse roles. One of the great strengths of our union, United Academics here at the University of Oregon, is that our bargaining unit is so vast and broad. And there have been a lot of skeptics about that, like, how could that work to have tenure track faculty and non-tenure track instructional faculty and non-tenure track research faculty and adjuncts, whom we now call pro tem, and others, like all postdocs bundled together. That seemed unwieldy. And it turns out that that's actually a great strength of our union. It allows us to in fact be united in a very real sense, because we're not subject to what would be the standard tactic of an administration to divide and conquer, to set us against each other and have us just fight each other until nothing gets done, nothing gets accomplished, that would be wasteful for everyone involved, including the institution, and ultimately would not do nothing to serve what we're really trying to do on campus with our research, with our students, with our teaching. And so similar in my role, as I mentioned before, I'm sort of unique in the economics department in having this very specialized instructional role. That struck me as sort of strange. That's true for the economics discipline sort of overall. It's very typical for the economics discipline to have mostly tenure track people doing both research and teaching. Other disciplines do it a little differently and they have more non-tenure track folks, but in economics it's been much more traditional to just go that route. So there were skeptics in the department about hiring me, and that's why my position was adjunct for that first year, because I didn't really know if that would be a workable solution for us. And it's kind of ironic because of all disciplines, economics has been preaching about the benefits that can be gained through specialization in trade. Since David Ricardo in the early 19th century, who talked about comparative advantage and those gains that can come from having some people do one thing really well and other people do something else really well, and have that work out for the benefit of everyone. I see that as true not just at the department level, but campus-wide. I think that it would be harmful to everyone if we focused on just the tenure track folks to the exclusion of supporting the needs of the several hundred non-tenure track folks who are making this campus work in terms of the teaching and the research support. And so one of the visions I have is trying to demonstrate that, and to also sort of to make that message more clear, that we can be stronger together as, hey, we take off that instructional load and we do it. Actually, when we're focused on that, we can do it really well. And there's recent research in the last few years that shows that indeed there seems to be suggestive evidence that those instructors who are just in that, like just maybe the non-tenure track folks who are just instructional, seem to have greater success, which shouldn't be surprising. That's their job, that's their core mission, it's their passion. And that's not true, clearly, of every individual, but collectively speaking, we have a lot to offer. And I'd like that to be one of my accomplishments or goals for this time serving in this position is making that clear that we have a role, we have, I think, an important part to play in how our campus develops and how we can achieve excellence in those research domains by taking off that load and allowing the research faculty to be more dedicated to that in some ways around the edges. And I think that when it's realized that we can be stronger together, not just across United Academics, not just across our tenure track or non-tenure track divide, but across disciplines and across the institutions, that the administration can work really closely with the faculty, and the faculty can work closely among themselves across disciplines and across divides of rank and position, that really we can accomplish more. And I think that's the best part of that good that the union is doing for campus. It's got enormous benefits. It's allowed us to do amazing things in terms of the congeniality that exists across the faculty. So it wasn't one of the things that we expected, I think, when they organized a union and how we've been working on it so far. But one of the amazing things that's happened is that now we wouldn't have expected this in the past, but now it's not strange at all for tenure track professors in Romance languages to be talking with and really actively engaged with research-only faculty, or that we engage with some of the research-only faculty in the hard sciences or in the College of Education, and they're talking with people like me who are instructors in the social sciences. All throughout campus, we're having these interactions that we never would have had before. And one of the great benefits is that, wow, there are such amazing people working here whom we would never take an opportunity to engage with or know if it weren't for the union. So yeah, there were formerly, there still are structures where that could happen through the University Senate, but this has helped us get together in a way that's allowed us this very positive relationship that we wouldn't have had before. And that's something I'm actually really grateful for, and something that I'm really enjoying in my new role as an officer of the union, that having this opportunity to really get to know and spend some time with people across campus who are wonderful, hardworking, very dedicated and passionate, whom I would never have crossed paths with otherwise. And that's been really great. I've enjoyed that a lot. Don't lose hope. It's worth it. So definitely stay at it and be engaged and maintain that vision, because there is this. I think if you work at it, you can have in front of you that this time of greater unity of purpose, and that you can accomplish more together in ways that perhaps you didn't realize already or haven't realized before. So with that, I stay the course and do what you can. And one of the things that I've noticed as I've been doing more organizing efforts in my role as an officer is that we've now been an organized union for about 3 years. Now we have our second contract under our belts. And as I'm going to have some of the conversations with some of the parts of campus that have traditionally been skeptical of our efforts, that were not on board when the union was organized 3 years ago, some of those conversations that I'm having are with people who said, I wasn't excited about this plan before. I was really skeptical, but I watched what you've been doing over the last few years, and I really thought this was going to be a disaster, and that you guys were going to run the ship into the ground, and this was going to be a catastrophe. And it hasn't been that. And moreover, I'm glad for what you've been doing. And some of them now, 3 years out, are signing union cards and joining and coming on board and being full members. And others are still standoffish about that, maybe for whatever set of reasons, personal or ideological or otherwise. But our body of supporters actually, I can say, extends beyond our full membership. There are a lot of people out there who have seen what we've been doing and are more comfortable with it now that they've been able to see it in action. Like, certainly, yes, you're going to encounter lots of people who are uncertain, that they don't know what's going to happen next because they've not had something like that before. That makes perfect sense, and it's very legitimate and understandable. And so approach them with some charity. Like that's okay. Like, it's all right to be uncertain. It's right to be skeptical, but watch and see. Let us show you what we can do, and over time, that can work out, and they'll see that if there are benefits to them, both individually or benefits to the institution collectively, they'll watch and they'll realize that, and it won't be ignored.